30 tons of steel, tracks, armour, a turret thick enough to shrug off bullets, and not a single engine running. A tank, like the American M4 Sherman or the German Panzer IV, weighs as much as a small house. When one of these beasts broke down in the mud, under fire or behind enemy lines, it became dead weight. No cranes, no recovery vehicles nearby, no time. And yet, soldiers moved them with rope. How? Europe, 1944, roads reduced to sludge, bridges shattered, rail lines bombed, the battlefield is chaos. Tanks were the backbone of mechanized warfare, but they had a weakness rarely shown in war movies. They failed constantly. Engines overheated, transmissions shattered, tracks snapped, fuel lines froze. A disabled tank in combat wasn't just inconvenient, it was catastrophic. It blocked roads, it exposed positions, it signalled weakness. And the specialised armoured recovery vehicles? Rare, often already deployed elsewhere. So crews improvised. And that's where the rope trick comes in. Here's the secret. They didn't pull 30 tons. They multiplied force, using one of the oldest mechanical principles in human history, mechanical advantage. Long before World War II, sailors used block and tackle systems to raise masts. Builders erected stone temples. Dockworkers moved ships. The physics is simple, the application brilliant. A single rope threaded through pulleys can divide the effective load. 2 supporting lines, you halve the force needed. 4, you quarter it. Add more pulleys. Anchor correctly. You can multiply force dramatically. Now imagine that concept scaled up, not for lifting crates, but for dragging a tank out of a crater. Picture this for a moment. A disabled Sherman, sunk axle-deep in mud. Enemy artillery thunders away in the distance. The crew has minutes, not hours, to get moving. What do they find? Heavy hemp or steel core rope, field pulleys, and a solid anchor. Maybe a sturdy tree, a buried log, another tank, or even a ground anchor hammered deep into the earth. The rope is looped through a pulley attached to the tank's tow hooks, back to the anchor, and then back again. It's a crude, but honestly, a very effective block and tackle system. Each pass multiplies the pulling force. Suddenly, 10 men pulling with coordinated effort are no longer just 10 men. They're exerting the equivalent force of dozens, not instantly, and not in any dramatic fashion, but slowly, inch by inch, steel begins to move. Here's the part most people misunderstand. You don't actually need to overcome 30 tons of vertical lift. What you really need to beat is rolling resistance and suction. Once the initial grip of mud breaks, once static friction gives way to kinetic friction, the force required drops significantly. That first inch? It's the hardest, no doubt about it. After that, well, momentum starts to help. Soldiers sometimes combine these rope systems with wooden planks under the tracks, lever bars for those tiny micro-adjustments, and controlled rocking motions. They turned physics into survival, and that's no exaggeration. But here's what makes this story powerful. This wasn't about machinery, this was about coordination. 10 to 20 exhausted soldiers pulling in rhythm, a shouted cadence ringing out over the mud, boots digging in, heave, heave, the rope strains, fibres groan, and then movement. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just slow defiance of gravity and circumstance. This wasn't exclusive to one side. American crews used it, German crews used it. British and Soviet forces adapted similar principles. Even heavy German armour like the Tiger I, tipping the scales at over 50 tons, required creative recovery tactics when specialised vehicles weren't available. Of course, moving something that heavy with rope alone was far more limited, but partial repositioning, track realignment, getting unstuck from shallow bogging. It happened. Improvisation was universal. War forces innovation. Here's the strange part. We celebrate the tanks, the battles, the generals, but we rarely talk about logistics and recovery, because it's not glamorous. There's no explosion, no charge across open fields, just mud, rope, sweat. Yet without recovery efforts, armoured divisions would grind to a halt. A disabled tank left behind was not only lost hardware, it was intelligence for the enemy. Moving it, even a few metres, could mean the difference between destruction and repair. Why does this feel like a secret? Because, modern warfare is presented as machine-dominated. Hydraulic recovery vehicles, heavy wreckers, airlift cranes. The narrative suggests humans are, secondary. But World War II exposed something different. Technology failed. Human physics didn't. The rope trick is a reminder that brute force is overrated. Applied leverage wins. And maybe that lesson doesn't fit neatly into the mythology of unstoppable armoured might. Let's quantify this. If a block-and-tackle system provided a 4-to-1 mechanical advantage, 10 soldiers each pulling 150 pounds of force generate 1,500 pounds combined, times 4 equals 6,000 pounds of effective pulling force. Add rolling assistance, reduce mud suction, coordinate timing. That's enough to shift a bogged medium tank. Not lift it, shift it. And once tracks bite into firmer ground, the engine can take over. The rope was never the star. It was the catalyst. The ancient Egyptians moved stone blocks weighing multiple tons. Sailors hauled ships. Builders raised cathedrals. World War II soldiers simply revived an old truth. Physics does not care about era. A pulley in 1400 works the same in 1944. And sometimes the simplest tools survive the longest. Imagine being there. Cold hands, mud-caked boots, enemy artillery somewhere beyond the fog, no engines roaring, no mechanical saviour on the horizon, just rope, wood, and human determination. The tank moves, not because of advanced technology, but because someone understood leverage. And that, perhaps, is the forgotten brilliance of World War II. Not bigger weapons, not thicker armour, but knowing when to use a rope. History remembers the battles, but survival often comes down to physics. If this changed the way you think about war machines, stay curious.